I'm a downtrodden princess from the Upper East Side who married a notorious playboy. My playboy husband is rich, good-looking, and knows how to adjust my hormones. Honey, it's my birthday. Send the gift money over. That's right, I'm not in love with him. Just his money. Later, I decided to get a divorce. Hey, with red eyes, shouted, after being my stand-in for years, you're just going to dump me like that. It was my birthday. The place was packed with guests, but the host was nowhere to be found. I called Lucas. A woman answered the phone. Lucas is busy. Don't bother him. I forgot today was the day of Lucas's White Moonlight Luna's new show's launch. He had to accompany his mistress to the launch ceremony, so of course, he wasn't attending my birthday party. I said, tell him to come back. I told you, he doesn't have time. Luna interrupted, disdainfully saying, Evelyn, Lucas doesn't love you at all. Why are you still clinging on? I replied, I'm clinging to my own property, not like you clinging to someone else's property while being constipated. Let me remind you, staying on someone else's property too long can cause hemorrhoids. Luna, enraged, retorted, you're the one with hemorrhoids. Evelyn, is this marriage even worth it for you? Very much so. I changed the subject. Just tell him, it's fine if he doesn't come back, but he should still send the gift money. That was the real reason I called. Luna looked at me with even more disdain. You only call for money. Are you that obsessed with it? I shot back. Why would I marry him if it wasn't for money? And why do you cling to him if not for money? It's perfectly reasonable for me to want my husband's money. What are you even doing here? A mistress trying to act as the household manager. Do you even deserve that? She shouted. How dare you call Lucas a playboy? He's your husband. I laughed. He's my husband, but isn't he also a playboy to you? The mistress. You? Don't you me. You can't argue with me. The term mistress alone puts you in the shame spotlight. Where do you get the guts to challenge the legal wife? You're a scumbag, an uncultured dog. Go eat shit. I hung up after that. Luna would surely cry to Lucas. Lucas knew today was my birthday. I didn't expect him to come back, just needed the gift money. A moment later, I received a notification of the money transfer. The mistress' speed was impressive, so must have immediately complained to Lucas. That's why the money was sent so quickly. I checked my phone. $990. 000. Was he wishing for my long life? He couldn't possibly want to be with me forever. I smiled wryly and turned to greet the guests. I didn't actually need to do much, as my mother-in-law and elder sister-in-law were handling everything. I just chatted with the guests. Evelyn, someone called. It's your birthday. Why isn't Lucas here? I looked back and saw a wealthy young lady. I smiled and replied, he's busy. Luna's new show is launching today. The young lady fell silent, looking somewhat awkward. I found it amusing. I'm not embarrassed. Why are you? Anyone who asks such a question clearly has no social sense. You're just no brains at all. For 4 years of marriage, news about Lucas and me being distant has been on financial magazines almost every day. News about him and his White Moonlight Luna appearing as a couple frequently graces the front pages of financial and entertainment newspapers. So, when someone asks why Lucas isn't here, I straightforwardly reply, he's with his White Moonlight. It's a well-known secret. Why should I hide it? As long as I'm not embarrassed, the embarrassment falls on others. Someone commented, Sigh, what's the difference between this marriage and being a widow? Yeah, it's better to get a divorce. Then why doesn't she leave? Love brain. She knows Lucas doesn't love her, but refuses to let go. I ignored them, finding it amusing inside. Divorce. It's easy to say. After a divorce, who would give me $200, 000 a month as pocket money, plus extra large red envelopes for holidays and birthdays? Why would I forgo such money? Lucas is back. Someone shouted. I looked toward the door. Lucas indeed came back. However, he was accompanied by a dazzling woman. Everyone looked at me with sympathetic eyes. I wasn't surprised at all. Lucas and Luna were like a weight and its scale. The weight never leaves the scale. And where I am, the scale has to separate from the weight. Before they appeared at the door, Lucas had already removed Luna's hand from his arm. Lucas and I had an agreement. I don't allow our son to see him being affectionate with another woman. Lucas follows this agreement diligently. He thoughtfully escorted Luna to the position for distinguished guests. Then he turned in Saturday at the main table next to me. Happy birthday, darling. He took out a box and opened it, revealing a necklace. I got this at a charity auction last time. I hope you like it. I smiled brightly. Thank you, darling. I love it. I'll put it on you. The necklace glittered on my neck. The guests applauded, praising its beauty. Only Luna didn't applaud and looked quite displeased. We sat her day down. Lucas served some dishes that the kids liked. He was always good to the kids and remembered their preferences. For me, that's about his only redeeming quality. Then he also served me some dishes. He seemed to know my preference as well, because all the dishes he served me were things I liked. Luna's gaze at him was full of resentment. I smiled and put a shrimp on his plate. Well, we had to keep up appearances for the guests, even if it was just an act. Lucas put on gloves and peeled the shrimp. placing it in my bowl. I remembered he didn't seem to eat shrimp. I quickly picked out a crab for him. He peeled the crab and put it in my bowl too. I wondered, doesn't he eat crab either? I looked at the dishes and put a spicy pork intestine on his plate. Lucas's face darkened as he stared at the pork intestine like it was his mortal enemy. Doesn't he eat this either? I suspected he was doing it on purpose. He was deliberately avoiding eating what I picked for him, so Luna wouldn't get jealous. I sneered. No need to act. Luna suddenly stormed over, accusing me. Evelyn, how can you be a wife like this? You've been married to Lucas for 4 years, and still don't know he doesn't like pork intestine. Well, I really didn't know. I usually don't remember what Lucas likes or dislikes. It's a problem with my memory. Besides, he doesn't often eat with me, so I genuinely don't know his tastes. But Luna's outburst had ripped the facade off the pretense of our marriage. I smiled and said, if he doesn't like pork intestine, should I not let him eat it? I'm just teaching him not to be picky and to set a good example for our son. And what about his seafood allergy? Don't you know? That really embarrassed me. I truly didn't know, but in front of everyone, I couldn't admit it. I retorted, so what if he's allergic to seafood? I asked my husband to peel shrimp and crabs for me. Miss Luna, is there a problem with that? Does peeling shrimp with gloves make him allergic too? Luna was even more furious. Lucas hasn't even had breakfast because he's so busy. And you don't take care of him. You let him serve you. Is this how you treat him as a wife? I said, my husband likes peeling crabs and shrimp for me. If he didn't want to do it, he just picked them out for me. Luna was left speechless. Some guests laughed. Why should outsiders comment on a couple's matters? Lucas would rather go hungry than not peel shrimp for his wife. It shows their good relationship. Peeling shrimp for the other half is a matter of mutual willingness. These comments were indirectly calling Luna a mistress and interfering in other people's business. I picked up another shrimp and put it on Lucas's plate, sweetly saying, darling, I still want to eat. Oh my. I gave myself goosebumps with my own cutesy voice. Lucas glanced at me as if I were a monster. He started peeling in front of everyone. He couldn't refuse to peel it. Luna was stomping her feet in anger. Lucas didn't even look up. Go back to your seat. I was even more direct. Miss Luna, if you want to eat, sit down. If not, you can leave. Don't stand here and spoil my appetite. Why should I leave? Evelyn, you don't deserve to be Lucas's wife. Ha. So she was here today to compete for the position of the hostess. Luna was like a rat in a dark ditch. Although she scurried around, she never had a chance to be officially recognized, so she probably wanted to use today to assert her claim. But the claim wasn't hers, so her assertion was worthless. My elder sister-in-law stood up. Miss Luna, it's my sister-in-law's birthday, and we didn't invite you. You came without a gift and still criticized the hostess. We won't keep you. Please leave. Luna's face alternated between red and white, nearly in tears. She had hoped to win over my mother-in-law and elder sister-in-law to drive me out so she could take over. Instead, it backfired. She probably never stepped foot into the Atlandi house again. We're leaving, Lucas said, taking Luna out. I watched his retreating figure and sneered. What difference does peeling more shrimp or crabs make? The moment he left with the other woman, all pretense was gone. What was once a facade of harmony had even lost its pretense. The banquet ended and the guests left. After a series of phone calls from my mother-in-law and sister-in-law, Lucas came back in the evening. My mother-in-law said, today is Evelyn's birthday. Lucas, you need to stay home with Evelyn and not go out. Do you hear me? He replied indifferently. Since you've already arranged everything, why even ask me? That's right, we've arranged everything. We're just letting you know so you can follow through. At work, Lucas might put on a respectable front, but in front of his mother and sister, he's just submissive. My mother-in-law took the child away. My sister-in-law thoughtfully closed the door behind us. The room was left with just the two of us, a couple at odds. Lucas looked at me and said, go take a shower. I didn't move. What's wrong? He came closer. Don't you want to go to the bathroom alone? Do you want me to go with you? I stepped back. Have you been with her? Lucas stopped, smiled, and said, if I had been with her, would you stop sleeping with me? I seemed to have no reason to demand that of him, but just thinking about him being with Luna made me uncomfortable. He sarcastically said, don't forget, I'm not the only man in your life. My heart felt like it had been pierced with a needle, causing a spasm of pain. I turned and went into the bathroom. The shower was turned on, and the water poured down. My tears streamed down my cheeks. I cried silently, shaking all over. My marriage with Lucas was a forced union. He doesn't love me, and I don't love him. 4 years ago, he was set to marry his dream girl, Luna. But Luna suddenly announced she wanted to go to Hollywood to act, and asked Lucas to wait for 3 years. Lucas didn't want to wait, and gave her an ultimatum, either marry me or break up. Luna didn't want to miss her chance at becoming an international star, so she chose to break up and went to Hollywood. Then, his family arranged for him to marry me and the man I loved. Knock, knock. The sound of the door interrupted my thoughts. Lucas said, Evelyn, are you planning to shower until tomorrow morning? I quickly finished, put on my pajamas. In front of the mirror, I managed my facial expression, trying to hide any unusual emotions. Then I opened the door and threw myself at him. Lucas was startled and caught me. "Are you trying to murder your husband?" I said. "I'm going to drain you." He laughed. "Aren't you worried I'm dirty? What's there to worry about? I'm not exactly clean myself." He carried me to the bed and sat me down. "Evelyn, do you think we're crazy? We complain about each other, but still sleep together." I chuckled. "We need to regulate our hormones, otherwise we'll age quickly." "So, you only care about that?" "Well, not just that. You're handsome. You spend money on me, and you're good to our son. Adding all that up, it's not too bad for me to sleep with you." He sneered. "So I'm the one who's getting a bad deal. What's so bad about it? You get a wife, a son, and free sex," he interrupted. "I'm paying money, but on top of that, I'm losing $1 billion. $1 billion? How's that?" He smiled without saying a word. Seeing his smirk, it took me a moment to realize. "Forget it." He laughed heartily. "I don't mind being intimate with Lucas. After all, physical needs must be met. We've been married for 4 years, and we've done it before, so there's no need for pretense. Besides, I've taken so much of his money, I have to fulfill my marital duties. After all, one should be mindful of what they receive. To me, doing this now has nothing to do with love. He's just a tool for regulating hormones. Of course, regulating hormones is only one reason. The other reason is that my mother-in-law wants me to have a second child because my son seems to have some issues. At 3 years old, he still doesn't speak. I've taken him to major hospitals for examinations, but nothing was found. The doctors reassured me that children speak at different times, and my son might just speak later than usual. But this doesn't comfort me or my mother-in-law. We're both worried he might be mute. My mother-in-law said, if we have another child, he'll have a playmate, and maybe he'll start speaking. She even gave an example. Lucas's brother didn't speak for a long time as a child, but after Lucas was born, his first word was brother, and then he started talking a lot. Since doctors can't help my son, I might as well try my mother-in-law's idea. Moreover, having a companion won't make the child feel so lonely. Lucas and I agreed that he would come home during my ovulation period. Today is both my birthday and my ovulation period. Everything was ready, and just as we were about to start, Lucas's phone rang. He looked at it, frowned. It was definitely Luna calling. I thought he'd answer it, but he hung up and turned off his phone. I asked, wasn't that her? Lucas's voice was a bit cold. Don't bring up things that will spoil the mood. Fine, I won't mention what bothers me. Halfway through, my phone rang again. I took it out to answer. Lucas grabbed it and hung up, turning off the phone, saying, fair is fair. I pouted. This is different from yours. How so? Yours is your dream girl. Mine is an old classmate. A man is still a man. Lucas sneered. Do you want him to hear us? Alright. I hadn't considered that, but he could at least wait for me to finish. Afterward, I thought Lucas would leave, but he laid down beside me to sleep. I said, aren't you going to apologize to someone? He looked at me. If I leave, do you want to return the call? I was speechless. I can return it even if you're here. I picked up my phone and called my classmate back. Evelyn. He answered. I'm back. Let's meet tomorrow. Okay. I replied. Do you want me to pick you up? No, I'll drive myself. Alright. See you tomorrow. I ended the call, my mind swirling, unable to sleep. I thought of Theodore. The man I love most is Theodore. The classmate on the phone is Theodore's best friend. I wonder what he'll say to me tomorrow. Lucas wasn't asleep either. He must be thinking about Luna. I said sympathetically, if you miss her, just call her. He turned over and held me. Go to sleep, or we'll make another baby. Yeah, right. I'm still sore and tired. His embrace reminded me of Theodore's, warm and solid. Slowly, I fell asleep. I had a dream where Theodore came back. He held me tight and said, Evelyn, let's get married. Before I could answer, he disappeared. I anxiously searched. Theodore. Waking up, it was already morning. Lucas was gone from the bed. I smiled wryly. He couldn't resist, and went off to explain things to his dream girl early in the morning. I washed up and went downstairs, only to find Lucas sitting in the living room. I asked in surprise, you didn't leave? He glanced at me and said, where would I go? Just then, my mother-in-law and sister-in-law came downstairs. I turned to greet them. After breakfast, my mother-in-law asked, Evelyn, do you want to go shopping? You need new clothes. Before I could speak, Lucas said, yes, I'll go with her. My mother-in-law and sister-in-law looked at him in surprise. I said, you go to work. I don't need you to come. My sister-in-law jumped in. If Lucas has time, let him come with you. Men are just labor when they go shopping, so why not make use of him? My mother-in-law also supported him coming with me. If I refused again, it would seem ungrateful. Lucas drove me to meet my classmate. When we arrived at the cafe for the meeting, I said, you go see Luna. I won't tell Mom. He didn't say anything and followed me out of the car. I asked, what are you doing? He glanced at me. Can I meet the person you're meeting? My classmate is looking for me, not you. He hugged my waist. As husband and wife, if he wants to see you, He has to see me too. I pulled away from him. I don't interface with you and other women, so don't interface with me. Other men, I can ignore. This one, I can't. As we were struggling, someone called out, Evelyn. I turned around and saw it was my classmate, Benjamin. He was stunned to see Lucas. Theodore, I hurriedly introduced. This is Theodore's brother, Lucas. Benjamin understood. Nice to meet you, Lucas. I'm Benjamin, your brother's best friend. He mentioned having a younger brother, but I didn't expect you two to look so alike. Lucas forced a smile as he shook hands with him. I've heard a lot about Benjamin from my brother. We went into the cafe and Saturday down, chatting about casual things. Benjamin said, Lucas, I'd like to speak with Evelyn alone. Lucas's face darkened. Benjamin, Evelyn is my wife. Is there anything I can't hear? I was angry. What's wrong with being your wife? Can't I have my own private space? What private space? A man and a woman alone in a room, I interrupted angrily. You're with other women every day, and I don't interface. Why do you get to control me? Seeing us argue, Benjamin quickly intervened. Evelyn, Lucas, let's not fight. First, are you two already married? I nodded. Yes. Then I'm relieved. Let's have lunch together. I felt his change of topic was too abrupt and sensed he had more to say. Lucas suddenly stood up. Thanks, Benjamin, but we need to take our child to the hospital. We'll invite you another day. Benjamin asked, what's wrong with the child? He's 3 years old and still doesn't speak. We made an appointment with the doctor for today. Benjamin nodded. The child's health is important. Go ahead and take care of that. We'll talk another time. As we were almost home, Lucas's phone rang. I glanced and saw it was Luna calling. He answered. What's up? Whatever was said on the other end made him slam on the brakes and tell me, get out of the car. I looked at him. Aren't we going to the hospital? He retorted. We've already had tests. There's nothing wrong. Why go to the hospital again? What about just now? I was lying to Benjamin. Get out of the car. I had something urgent. I got out of the car angrily. Slamming the door shut, the car sped away. I took a swing at the air in frustration, aiming at the back of the car. After fuming for a while, I managed to calm down. Looking back, home wasn't far off. It was just a 10-minute walk. I decided to stroll slowly and took out my phone to call Benjamin. He picked up quickly. Evelyn, how's the kid? I replied. The kid is fine. That's good to hear. I paused before asking. Benjamin, did Theodore say anything before he passed? Theodore had died in a car accident abroad, and I hadn't been able to see him one last time. His ashes were brought back by someone from the company. Benjamin hesitated for a long while before answering. After the accident, both Theodore and I were severely injured. He told me that if he didn't make it, his biggest concern was you. He also said if you didn't move on after 3 years, I should take his place and love you. My heart ached at his words. Benjamin continued. I thought he was just talking, but before we could even recover, we were hit again. I was unconscious, and when I woke up in the hospital, Theodore had already passed. Tears began to fall from my eyes. Theodore had been so concerned about me, worried that I wouldn't be happy without him. I understood why he asked Benjamin to look after me. Once, I overheard Benjamin saying he liked girls like me. Theodore had warned him sternly. Don't even think about it. Evelyn and I are bound together for life. Benjamin had replied. What if one day you get tired of her? Theodore had said. Don't be foolish. My feelings for Evelyn will never change. Theodore and Benjamin were longtime friends, which is why Theodore trusted him with me. I suddenly felt a deep sense of guilt towards Theodore. Did he expect me to wait for 3 years? Yet I had married his brother in less than 3 months. I was overcome with sorrow. Theodore, I'm sorry. I'll divorce Lucas tomorrow. The next day, Lucas didn't come home. I wasn't surprised. After putting the kids to sleep, I lay in bed scrolling through my phone and came across a picture of Lucas. He was in a car, hugging a woman that looked very close. The woman was Luna. I put down my phone and stared at the ceiling. I missed Theodore so much it was painful. It hurt to think about how he had suffered, and he still cared about my happiness. I understood why he asked Benjamin to take care of me. Once, I overheard Benjamin saying he really liked girls like me. Theodore had firmly told him, don't even think about it. Evelyn and I are bound together for life. Benjamin had replied, what if one day you get tired of her? Theodore had said, my feelings for Evelyn will never change. Theodore and Benjamin were close friends, and that's why Theodore trusted him to look after me. I felt an overwhelming sense of guilt towards Theodore. Did he think I would wait for him for 3 years? But I had married his brother in less than 3 months. I was filled with regret. Theodore, I'm sorry. I'll get a divorce from Lucas tomorrow. That evening, Lucas came back. My mother-in-law asked, Lucas, where were you last night? He replied, I was so tired, I needed to sleep. He went straight to the bedroom and fell asleep immediately. Lucas didn't wake up until the afternoon. I was in the living room when he finally emerged, freshly groomed. I handed him the divorce papers and said, here's the divorce agreement. Take a look. Lucas's face darkened instantly. What's this supposed to mean? As soon as Benjamin shows up, you want a divorce? I was amused. What does he have to do with this? This is between us. He was furious. Evelyn, Do you think you can just marry and divorce me as you please? I countered. You were the one who proposed the marriage. The divorce is my way of letting you and your ideal match be together. He grabbed the divorce papers and tore them apart. Forget it, I responded coldly. Then I'll just sue for divorce. I stood up and headed for the door. He grabbed my arm, his eyes red with anger, and shouted, Evelyn, have you been using me as a stand-in all these years, and now you just want to throw me away? I asked back, aren't you using me as a stand-in? Lucas cursed. You're not a stand-in. I never liked Luna. I laughed bitterly. Yesterday, you were hugging her in the car, and it's all over the internet. Do you think you can still fool me? Internet. He yelled angrily. You only believe what's online. Those self-media people write anything to get attention. Can't you just ask me directly? Why should I ask you? We agreed that after marriage, we wouldn't interface in each other's affairs. His eyes grew even redder as he stepped back. Disappointed. You don't have any feelings for me, do you? You only care about my brother, Theodore. Seeing his hurt expression made my heart skip a beat. Lucas usually dismisses everyone, talking down to his mother and sister, except for Luna. I've never seen him nervous about anyone. Thinking of Luna, I realized why he didn't want a divorce. Luna had broken up with Lucas to pursue her Hollywood dreams, but after 3 years, she hadn't achieved much and had to return home, playing only minor villain roles. When her contract ended, she came back to Lucas despite him being married. My mother-in-law had already made it clear that Luna was not welcome back into the Allende family, so her chances of being with Lucas were slim. I said, Lucas, do you think you can hold on to me just because Luna can't marry into the family? You think you can have me and still be with her? Lucas's face flushed even redder, and he glared at me. Evelyn, am I really that worthless in your eyes? Isn't that the case? I sneered. Lucas's reputation as a playboy is well known throughout the city. Lucas had always been a notorious playboy, flaunting around with different women. His parents had scolded him for this, urging him to follow his brother's example and behave properly. He met Luna and claimed she was his ideal woman, but once they broke up, he returned to his old ways. Until Luna came back, Lucas clenched his fists and approached me angrily. Was he going to hit me? I stared at him. He punched the wall beside me, then turned and slammed the door behind him. The door shook slightly. I stood there, bewildered by his rage. After a while, my phone rang. It was Benjamin. Evelyn, I saw the news online. Is Lucas treating you badly? Without thinking, I defended him. No, he treats me well. The news is fake, just sensationalism. But the photos aren't fake, right? The photos are real. Lucas was just taking Luna to the hospital because she was sick. Benjamin was silent for a moment before saying, Evelyn, if you need anything, you must tell me. I don't want you to be unhappy, and I don't want Theodore to be upset. Tears welled up again. I was so weak. I cried at the mention of Theodore. I looked up and forced a smile. I'm really fine. Lucas and I are doing well. Thanks for your concern, Benjamin. That night, I received another call from Benjamin. He said, Lucas is drunk. I'm bringing him back. Send me the address. I sent him the address and waited downstairs. Benjamin helped the drunken Lucas upstairs and settled him on the sofa. I asked, how did you find him? I called him. I was planning to give him a hard time for his brother's sake. I was puzzled. Give him a hard time, Benjamin explained. Theodore once said that if you married someone else and weren't happy, I should beat up the guy. My tears began to flow again. Theodore always wanted to take care of me, but fate wasn't on our side. He was taken away from me so soon. Benjamin said, when I found Lucas, he was alone at a bar drinking. When I asked him about his feelings for you, he got emotional and said, you still couldn't forget Theodore. He feels like a substitute and is in pain because you keep calling out Theodore's name every day. I was stunned. Benjamin looked at me seriously. Evelyn, Theodore's biggest concern was you. He only wanted you to be happy. If you keep holding on to him, you won't be able to be happy. Do you understand what I'm saying? Tears streamed down my face as I choked out. I understand. He nodded. Evelyn, try to let go of Theodore. Since you're married to Lucas, try to build a relationship with him. I wanted to let go of Theodore, but his memory was always in my heart. Before leaving, Benjamin said, Evelyn, you can think of me as your older brother. If you need anything, call me. I nodded. Got it, Benjamin. After Benjamin left, I went back to Lucas. He was flushed and looked uncomfortable. I brought him some hangover soup and helped him drink it. With his eyes closed, he said, Evelyn, please don't leave me. I stared at him. At that moment, Lucas seemed completely different from his usual arrogant self. He was like a neglected puppy, pitiful and helpless. I used a warm towel to wipe his face and neck, and he seemed to feel a bit better. I covered him with a blanket and went to bed, but sleep eluded me. I lay there silently, thinking of Theodore. Theodore and I had grown up together. He was 3 years older than me and had always been my protector. My family was once a prominent East Side family, and I was known as the East Side Princess. But my grandparents and father became addicted to gambling, and our wealth dwindled. After my grandparents died, my father's gambling worsened. Eventually, He lost everything and even owed millions in high-interest loans. My mother fell ill from the stress and was in critical condition. To pay off the debts, my father tried to marry me off to an old man. Theodore stepped in, paid off the debts, and put my mother in a care facility. I became his fiancée, and thus became a laughingstock among the East Side elite, who called me the fallen princess. Theodore treated me with immense care, and even took me with him when he went abroad for his studies. That's when I met his friend, Benjamin. After graduating, Theodore and I returned to our country. Not long after, his father passed away, and Theodore became the president of the company. He was very busy, frequently flying abroad for business. 4 years ago, he said, "Evelyn, once I close this deal, I'll come back and marry you." I waited eagerly to become his bride, only to receive news of his death instead. During that time, I was in so much pain that I wished I could follow him. My mother-in-law and sister-in-law were with me constantly. Then I discovered I was pregnant with Theodore's child. I wanted to keep the baby. It was Theodore's legacy, the best gift he left me. At this point, Lucas was preparing to marry Luna. According to tradition, if someone in the family passes away, you either marry within 3 months or wait for 3 years. During these 3 years, no celebrations are allowed. But even though the wedding was ready, Luna had to go to Hollywood. Lucas, furious, said, "If you leave, I'll marry someone else immediately." Luna replied, "Wait for me for 3 years." 3 days after she left, Lucas proposed to me. He said, "Since you've lost my brother and I've just gotten out of a relationship, let's settle for each other. My brother's child will be like my own, and I'll treat him as my own son." My mother-in-law also advised me, a child needs a father, otherwise, he might face discrimination at school. I thought it over for 2 days, feeling my belly, and decided to marry Lucas for the sake of the child. But I set some rules with Lucas. First, I won't handle your hormonal needs. If you have those, take care of them outside. He asked, "And you?" "I don't need that." "What's the second rule?" "Second, I'll play along with public displays of affection, but privately, we'll leave each other alone and not interface with each other." "All right." "And the third, I don't care who you're involved with, male or female, but my child must never see you being affectionate with anyone else." Lucas hesitated. "My job involves interacting with women. Does that mean you need to hold their arms?" "No, that's not necessary," he said, extending his hand. "Deal." So, we got married. Actually, one reason I agreed to marry Lucas was that he looked so much like Theodore. Every time I saw him, it felt like Theodore was still alive and with me. But after we married, every time Lucas tried to get close, I was sharply reminded that he was not Theodore, so I rejected his advances. He got upset and said, "Do you really want me to find another woman to solve this problem?" I replied, "If you can endure it, then endure. If not, find someone else." That's what we agreed on before marriage. Sure enough, he stopped bothering me. We lived in a respectful but distant marriage for 2 years. Lucas was busy with other women, while I stayed home, pregnant and then giving birth, with my mother-in-law and sister-in-law taking care of me. Lucas seemed almost unnecessary. Lucas was generous with money. For every holiday or birthday, unless he forgot, he would give me an enormous red envelope. If he did forget, I'd remind him. The reason I pushed for money from Lucas was because my mother's care in the nursing home was a significant expense. I didn't know how long my marriage with Lucas would last. If we divorced, I might not be able to cover my mother's costs. Things changed on our child's first birthday. I drank a lot and got drunk. I saw Theodore and cried loudly while holding him. When I sobered up, I realized I had mistaken Lucas for Theodore. For the next few days, Lucas stayed with me and the child, playing games and cutting off contact with his other women. I thought he had finally settled down to be a responsible husband and father. I also wanted to gradually let go of Theodore and build a life with Lucas. But one night, when he tried to be intimate, I accidentally called him Theodore. He stopped and asked, "Why do you always call him by his name? It's been 2 years. You still can't forget him." I said, 2 years is nothing. I've known him for 25 years. He yelled angrily, "I've known you for 25 years too. All you see is him, only him." He suddenly got up and stormed out. I didn't think I was wrong. Theodore was my beloved. How could I forget him? My relationship with Lucas cooled again. He continued to chase after other women, while I stayed home with our son, quietly missing Theodore. When my mother-in-law's birthday came around, Lucas returned. My mother-in-law suggested I should give the child a sibling. Lucas brought up the idea of having another child. We agreed that he would come back during my ovulation period, so we continued our loveless marriage. But my belly didn't show any signs of pregnancy. Then I suddenly remembered something. I might have missed my period this month. I grabbed a pregnancy test and went to the bathroom. The results showed twins. I was overjoyed and rushed out to tell Lucas, "I'm pregnant." He groggily opened his eyes and asked, "Pregnant with what?" "With a baby." I know. Seeing his indifferent reaction, I lost my enthusiasm. I regretted telling him. In my excitement, I wanted to share the news but chose the wrong person. Lucas suddenly jumped up and asked, "What did you say?" "Nothing." I said, turning to leave. He grabbed me and whispered, "Are you saying you're pregnant with my child?" I only just realized you meant that big news. I remained calm. My body felt weightless as he picked me up. "What are you doing? Put me down," he said. "You're like a national treasure now. I must handle you with care." He carried me to the bedroom, laid me gently on the bed, and kissed me. I tried to block his mouth with my hand. He took my hand away and swore, "I've only kissed you, no one else." I found it hard to believe. "Not even your white moonlight?" "Of course, I have." I frowned. He smiled mischievously. "Because you're my white moonlight. Don't lie to me. You always said Luna was your white moonlight. She was your stand-in." I looked at him in confusion. "What do you mean? Don't you think Luna and you have a similar demeanor?" I shook my head. "Not at all. I'm not that refined." Lucas laughed. "I mean, her walking style, from the side, resembles you." I only pursued her because I saw a resemblance to you in profile. Lucas said he had liked me since we were very young, but I only had eyes for his brother. His brother also liked me since he couldn't break us up. He searched everywhere for someone like me and eventually found Luna. Theodore's accident was shocking and unexpected for Lucas. Seeing my pain, he wanted to help, but his family pressured him to marry Luna. Just when he was caught between two choices, Luna decided to go to Hollywood. He could have waited for 3 years, but instead, he offered two choices. Luna chose to break up with him, so he turned to me with a proposal. After marriage, I refused to be intimate with him. He understood, thinking that once I moved past Theodore, we could be a good couple, but I told him to find someone else if he couldn't handle it. He got so angry that he tried to provoke jealousy with other women. On our child's first birthday, after getting drunk, I finally became intimate with him. However, I continued to call him Theodore every night. He initially tolerated it, but eventually couldn't stand it anymore and left in a rage. Luna came back, and I grew close to her again, hoping to make me jealous. Yet, I remained indifferent. When Benjamin returned, I asked for a divorce. Lucas was furious and felt that after loving me for so long, I hadn't given him any real attention. He went to a bar to drown his sorrows. Benjamin found him and learned what was really wrong between us. Lucas said, "I really love you, more than my brother did, but you never truly see me. Whenever you come to my house, you only see my brother. Even when I'm standing right in front of you, you act as if I'm invisible." He looked hurt, like a pitiful little fox. I found it hard to hold back my tears. I admit it, I've only ever had eyes for Theodore. Had never really noticed how Lucas looked at me. I added, "But you stayed with Luna last night." Lucas's expression grew more pitiable. "Luna got injured on set yesterday. She wouldn't let anyone else help her, so I rushed to the hospital to take care of her." I scoffed. "Couldn't you have called an ambulance? Why did it have to be you carrying her?" He cheekily said, "When she called me, I was feeling jealous of you and Benjamin. I wanted to make you jealous too. I promise there won't be a next time. I swear." I knew I also had significant responsibility in our marriage. Even if I didn't love Lucas, since I married him, I should give him proper respect. Of course, he was also at fault. If he had been upfront from the beginning about his feelings, knowing he had loved me for so long, I might have tried to accept his love. In marriage, it's a big no-no to keep things bottled up and make your partner guess what's wrong. Guessing back and forth usually leads to big problems. It's also a bad idea to pretend to get along with others just to make your partner jealous. That's not clever. It's foolish. My feelings for Lucas aren't quite love yet, but I'm willing to try to love him, respect him, and trust him. Since our talk, Lucas has changed a lot. He comes home right after work every day, plays with our son, and teaches him to talk. Although our son still isn't speaking, he has a big smile on his face and seems very happy. A few months later, I gave birth to our second child, a daughter. When we got back from the hospital, Lucas helped me, and my mother-in-law was holding the baby, calling out, "Big brother, come see your little sister." Our son ran over quickly, amazed, and touched his little sister's feet. Then he looked at her face and then at me. I told him, "This is your sister. If you call her sister, she will call you big brother in return." Our son opened his mouth and said, "Sis?" "Yes," I said, thrilled. "That's right, your sister." Our son kept repeating, "Sis, sis, 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 sister." I joyfully held his face and said, "My son can say sister now." He looked at me and suddenly said, "Mommy." I immediately burst into tears. Lucas, flustered, handed me tissues and said, "Don't cry, don't cry. The doctor said you shouldn't cry during the postpartum period." A week later, our son was already speaking a lot of words. I looked up at the sky. "Theodore, did you hear our son talking? Do you see my happiness? I hope that you're happy in the other world too."